Hello and welcome to a quick demonstration of the iService platform. This is a culmination of the work done in SIT 313, Client Server Web Application Development. So the core technologies of this app are using the MERN stack, which is MongoDB for the database, Express for a server-side framework, React for a front-end framework, and Node for a server-side runtime. Our key packages include React, the React Router DOM, and React Bootstrap for styling, used Axios on top of Fetch, and the backend sees us use the Express framework. We use BodyParser for forms. There's also Mongoose for making calls to our database. Bcrypt is used for hashing passwords. And we've also got cores for cross-origin resource sharing because the routes are on the same machine in this application. We've also got a validator package there as well. Okay, so this is somewhat of an ERD of our front-end components. It shows the React component hierarchy for our client-side application, and this relationship between parent and child component allows us enough complexity to achieve the functionality that we require inside the application. Okay, so these are the pages of the application. Register login, homepage, post a new task, find your tasks, burrow down to a single task, and edit and delete this task. There's also a solve view for experts. On the other side of the application is the API that's serving the front end, and it's made up of three main resources, including users, experts, and tasks. There's also a third-party API that handles a welcome email with MailChimp. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first of our three resources, which is the experts. Here in our server.js file, which is the server-side executable, we can see our endpoint of /experts, and we can access that on our application. The API and the front end is being hosted on the same Heroku machine and port, just for ease of demonstration. So if we go to /experts, like we see it in the file here, we get our experts resource inside this neat little array. So with this resource, I've handled this endpoint so that we can get all experts, we can add a new expert, and we can also delete all the experts. There is also, if you provide the parameter afterwards, in the query string, we can retrieve a single expert. We can completely replace the expert fields, the whole resource, with a put request. We can update just certain fields with the patch request, and we can also delete an expert as well. So our front end application, which is only using the GET request for the experts resource, is populating them down here. Our application, both our front and back, is hosted with Heroku, so we can access both of those here. So this is all that's available on the front. So let's actually just go to this experts route, and it should give us the resource in JSON format, which we see. So let's test. So the get works. Let's test out a post request. So let's post a new expert to the experts resource. If we've got all our fields here: name, address, mobile, password, text, and rating. I've just filled them out previously. So if we send this, we get a response, which is the new object. And if we refresh on our Heroku app, we have a new resource there. The next thing I'll demonstrate is a patch request, which is basically updating certain fields within a resource, but it won't replace the resource. So this one has, got the fields more text and 1.222. We have to provide the parameter because that's what the endpoint dictates. So if we just copy in this unique ID, and we press send on this, it should update the text to more text capital, and it should update the rating to 1.222. So we'll send that. It says expert updated. We'll refresh this and we get more text in caps and we get the rating 1.222. So it's working fine. Another way to edit is with a put request, which should replace the resource. So let's grab that ID again and going to whack Dr. Katz in there. Now the first Dr. Katz was an imposter, so he still wants to use his name, but we need to wipe all his records because they're false. So if I just give a name and we'll also provide text, let's say new text. It should just, next time we refresh, it should just have name and text, and it should replace all of the other fields because we haven't provided them here. So let's send that put request, expert replaced, we refresh over here, and you can see those changes are made. So we have get, post, patch, and put that are all working nicely on the back end, and we can see that when we access it, the resource here on our domain. Okay, next is our user resource. So this is where we have all the information regarding our users. On a desktop, it looks something like this. So we've got first name, last name, email, country, password, which is hashed. As you can see there, we're using Bicrypt to do that. So let's just go ahead and fill out this form. I've pre-filled this one for our Mr. Scott Morrison. Let me change the email so I don't forget. It's Scott, not Kevin. I was going to go Kevin Rudd. Scott@morrison.com will be the username, and the password I'll put in here is just simply password so I can remember it. So we've got to remember the username and the password. All right, sign in. Brilliant. So it's, no, we don't want it to save, thank you, but it's redirected us to our sign-in page. Scott@morrison.com and password. Now this should redirect to the home page if we're successful. And there you go. I thought it thought it broke then, but it didn't. It just took a little time to think about it. So we have a new user, and we should be able to see that inside the database now. So let's have a look. Let's refresh this, and yep, we've got an 11th resource. So let's look down the bottom, and there's our Prime Minister Scott Morrison with his address and his hash password, and we've got he's even agreed to our terms and conditions. Okay, lastly, but certainly not least, we have our client side, which is taken care of by the React framework. I really enjoyed using React. You can create some really dynamic views and achieve pretty much whatever functionality comes to your mind. It does get a bit complex when when using state and passing certain things or props down and up to components. But eventually you can figure out the right structure and constellation between your components where they can work quite nicely. Another thing that I started to consider was to maybe use Redux as a state management library or framework to just simplify the whole process of getting the right state from one component to another. All right, so this is our homepage. We've seen it's got a couple of call to actions. I've used some React icons here. Here's our experts. We can post a new task, which we will quickly. We'll say this is in person. If I click on the in person, you should see the suburb come up. So it's dynamically rendering that through React. Let's just say we need to go to the footy, and description is have fun. The image functionality hasn't been taken care of just yet. We're going to say that the suburb is in Richmond, and the date should be today. Yes, it's selected the date for us. We're just going to say it's tomorrow though. It's a total amount, and it's for $556. So we're going to post this, and there you go. It redirects us to our Find Task page. And we can see we've got 3 different tasks to search from, to select from here. So we can have, we can select the go to the footy. We can have a look at the description, location, date, type, budget. Once again, the images are yet to be developed. We can edit this if we want. So if this is a protected page in the future, you know, let's say you're the one that posted the task, you could go in and edit it. Brings us up this edit item component. So we don't want to go to the footy, we want to go to the market. Go to the market and spend lots of money. And we don't want to spend that much, we only want to spend $200. So we go change. It should redirect us to refresh the page rather. And here we go to the market, spends lots of money. If we go back, that's reflected in our Find Task page. Another thing that I'll demonstrate is we can search by title. So I know that I've got the word market in there, and there you go. It's a tad slow connecting to the database. This server is actually being hosted in the US. That's probably why. We can also search by suburb, and I want this one to be from the city, any around the city, there we go. And you know what, I actually just want to search by date. So let's go from I want to search from the 11th, the 11th. So these default parameters can be changed in the state, which I mucked around with for a bit, but there you go. There's from and to dates, and it's giving us the dates within that range. We can also get rid of, we can also delete ones that we don't want to look at. That doesn't delete them permanently, it's just from this Find Task view. So we can actually go back into it if we want. If we did want to delete it, we have to go into the item. So let's delete this website task here, edit, and delete, and that should do it. There you go, it's gone. Okay, so future iterations of development would see the inclusion of the ability to upload photos to the database. Would also include privileges for the 2 types of users on the platform, users and expert, so that you could introduce hidden pages and private views for either of those users. Google Auth and Auth, so you can make authentication and signing in really easy for a user. They don't have to think about providing a username or a password. You can just piggyback or rely upon the already ratified credentials of that Google have provided. And there's a few remaining errors and exceptions to be handled. Additional considerations for when creating a MERN stack application in the future would be to keep a more highly modulated directory structure. Also, the inclusion of a state management framework like Redux, where you use a store to store all your component state rather than storing state disparately and individually. It can get quite complex. I have used a similar solution in the Vue framework, and that made my life a whole lot easier. So Redux will probably be next, probably included in my next project. I learned a lot about cross-origin resource sharing and the fact that there are complications when sharing several resources from different apps on the same computer or from similar and different ports. And also the consideration of using additional middleware for authentication and also private views and the like. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of the presentation. This was a really challenging unit, but a very satisfying one. I learnt a lot, and I'm sure I'll be using quite a lot of it into the future. Thanks for watching.